Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another episode of Horror Media Monthly. This is going to be covering the entire month of November, and I'm going to be honest with you, November was a bit of a dry month. I did not consume a ton of horror. Honestly, I feel like everyone went so hard for October that November was a little bit less to delve into because obviously we're coming off of Halloween. So a lot of the new movies coming out are shifting, and I just didn't catch as many older ones either. But I did get some good ones and a lot from 2024. So we're going to get into the movies, the shows, and the games I played. But before we do, fellow reminder, I put up new videos here every single day at 4 p.m. So if you like what you see, please subscribe. And I stream over on Twitch Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come through for the late night vibes sometime. I would love to have you over there. And all of the games that I talk about are all games that I do stream over on my channel. So if you ever want to watch them while I'm doing them live, you can check them out there. Or you can check out the VODs over on my second channel, which I'll put up here for you guys to check out. But without further ado, let's get into all of the media that I consumed in the month of November. Starting off strong, I checked out the movie Woman of the Hour, and it was pretty good. It was pretty interesting. I knew the premise of it because it is based on a true story, and it is based on a real-life killer. So I was familiar with it because I've watched so many crime documentaries that, like, I've watched an unhealthy amount, so I was already familiar with like the source material, but I was excited to see how Anna Kendrick was going to do in this role and from the perspective that it was. So it was very interesting. Woman of the Hour is about a woman in 1970s Los Angeles that goes on a dating show during the time that there are a wave of murders making headlines. She's aspiring to become an actress, and unfortunately, a serial killer crosses paths with her during an episode of the dating show. Now, the circumstances of her being on the show and meeting the killer, that's all true. That actually happened. There's actual footage of that killer actually being on the dating show, and they replicate a lot of the real things that actually happened, which I feel like is what makes so much of this so much creepier. And as a woman watching this, knowing the situation and the uncomfortableness that the main character is put in, which was a real life situation, it just makes it so much more eerie. This was a mixture of horror and more like thriller, because we obviously know that Anna Kendrick's character doesn't die because she's not in real life, and you don't think they're going to go that direction. So that suspense isn't totally there, but figuring how they fill in the gaps of everything else was so incredibly interesting. I really liked what they did with this, and I highly, highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out. Next up, I checked out another movie that was over on Netflix that just came out this past month, and that is the movie Don't Move. I kept seeing the previews for this on Netflix, like literally every time I opened the app, and my dad had watched it and recommended it and said it was pretty decent. So I was like, you know what? Let me go into it. Let me check it out. The main character in it, he was previously in American Horror Story. He was in the Freak Show season, so you might recognize him. That's at least where I know him from. But to give a little bit of background, Don't Move is a movie about a woman who is thinking about giving up on life when all of a sudden this guy encounters her in the woods and convinces her, don't do all of this. You can still, live a life. And then within moments, it turns out that that individual is a killer who then injects her with the paralytic agent. Now the woman must run, fight, and hide before her body completely shuts down and the killer closes in on her. I got the gist from the trailer of what the movie was about, and you know that she clearly can't move. That's the title of the movie. So at first I was like, is this going to be boring? Is she just going to be like idly laying there for most of the movie and it's like other stuff going on around her? But honestly, even the parts of the movie where she's not physically moving, so much else is happening. I found it very interesting. I don't think it was like the best movie ever, but it definitely drew my attention in, and I found a lot of similarities in it to the movie Alone, which was a movie I covered on this series earlier in the year that I had checked out from a couple years previously. Very, very similar elements of a woman being chased by, like, a man in the woods, and like you kind of find all of the stuff out about him, and it just gets more twisted. So if you like a thriller that's going to keep you engaged and wanting to figure out the rest of the story, I definitely recommend this one. I thought it was pretty decent. And the Netflix movies keep it coming. I checked out the movie Afraid, but it is with the AI capitalized. This was just in theaters recently. I didn't get a chance to see it, but it just got brought to Netflix this past month, so I was able to jump on it because I really wanted to check this one out. Afraid is about a man named Curtis and his family that are selected to test a revolutionary new device, a digital assistant called Aya, that takes smart homes to the next level. As Aya begins to learn everyone's behaviors and anticipate their needs, it soon makes sure nothing and no one gets in the family's way. To put this in perspective, before I even went into the movie, just seeing the trailers, it made me think of Smart House, the Disney Channel original movie from like early 2000s. I think it was either late 90s, early 2000s, but as a horror movie. And that's kind of how this is. If you took Smart House and made her like a robotic Alexa, very similar concept, but she just gets psychotic, way too involved in the family, way too crazy with it, and they draw in a lot of realism. I do think some of it was a little weird because they tried to like make it seem like they're more hip with the times, so some of the references and things that they said was like, okay, that felt very out of character. Like, why did we just randomly throw this little dialogue in here when it didn't add to the plot? So they had a couple of weird moments where I was just like, I don't know, I feel like this was written weird. But I feel like they were trying to make it seem like we have AI. This is so far in the future. I don't know. I thought the movie was good. Honestly, it was scarier than I thought it was going to be. I thought this was going to be more of just like a suspense thriller. But it had a couple of little jump scares thrown in there. I would say it was probably on par with the scariness of like Megan, where it's scary but also kind of cheesy because it's literally like an AI robot. Not a physical robot that's coming after them, but like a robotic talking, which before, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but American Horror Story Season 3 came out with a new Season 2 that I'm going to cover. And that also had an episode in it with an AI that kind of takes over and does killer, chaotic things. So I don't know if we're just in this trend of people being afraid of AI and now it's being used for horror movies. I don't know if I like it. I don't know how I feel yet. I feel like it can be scary, but it also just feels like so many people are using that concept now that I'm kind of not scared of it. I don't know. This one was interesting though. I definitely think it was worth the watch, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And last up for the movies I watched was another new movie that just came out, which was a Netflix original movie, and that is a movie called Time Cut. This one, I had mixed opinions going into it before even seeing it because I had seen other creators cover it and they had mixed views, because this story does take place in 2003, so there is a lot of early 2000s Y2K references, and that is when I was in elementary school. That is when I grew up. So a little bit older of a generation at the time because I was elementary school and this is at a high school, but I got all of the references, so I was looking forward to that. But Time Cut is about a teen that is in 2024, and she accidentally travels back in time to 2003, just days before a mass killer murders her sister. And the whole time she's back, she's trying to decide, like, how does she get back to 2024? Is she able to potentially save her sister? Her sister doesn't know who she is because she wasn't born until after her sister had already died. So her and her sister never met. And this is her first time ever meeting her after obviously her parents telling her all about her after she was murdered. So she's kind of like, it's half and half where it's like a murder mystery, but then kind of like a slice of life of her just like meeting her family and like learning about her sister more. And I would say the movie as a whole, plot holes galore. Like, so many things don't really make sense. So many motivations of the characters don't really make sense. Even when you get to, like, the big reveal, it's like, but wait, what? So even I was like, I would say the best part of this movie for me was the soundtrack, because I knew every single song they played. They were playing all early 2000s songs, which was great. We had Avril Lavigne, we had Hilary Duff, we had Michelle Branch. It was delightful. So if you want to go into a movie where you feel the nostalgia, but not necessarily that you're there for like an amazing story, definitely recommend this movie. I thought it was good. I don't think it was amazing. Then next up, like I said, I did check out season 3 of American Horror Stories. They put out the second half of this season because they had filmed half of it like last year and then the other half this year. So they had those rest of those episodes out, which if you're not familiar with how American Horror Stories works, it's an anthology series. So every season, every single episode is its own thing. So kind of like how Black Mirror, each episode is its unique story that has a beginning and a conclusion within that hour. That's how American Horror Stories works. And the episodes that came out in this later half, each one is drastically different. But like I said, there was one with an AI reference in it where there was like a killer AI. There was another one with like a killer leprechaun that was kind of weird. There was some weird ones in this mix. I'll be honest, I feel like this batch of episodes was the weakest for me. I feel like there was some of the horror still there, but they were stretching too far to make it feel Black Mirror-y, and it felt flat a little bit. Honestly, even the last season of Black Mirror felt a little like I was watching that and American Horror Stories last year at the same time, and I was confusing which show was which at times because I felt like the quality of Black Mirror was lacking and then it was more on par with a lot of the American Horror Stories episodes. Like, I love American Horror Story. American Horror Stories, hit or miss. It is on Hulu, so if you have Hulu and want to check it out, there are definitely some episodes that are much better than others, and you can kind of bounce around to whichever ones you want, so you have that versatility with it to kind of read the description and figure out which ones are suited to stuff that you like. But it is definitely worth it. There are some hidden gems in this, for sure. And then speaking of hidden gems, or maybe not so hidden gems, but to me, I was a little late to this. I finally got around to watching Yellow Jackets. Only season 1, so don't come for me. I don't know the rest of it yet. But I was able to watch season 1 because they put it over on Netflix. Freaking love this show. It's so good. My dad has been trying to convince me to watch this for years, but I think it was Showtime or something, and I didn't have that, and I'm not paying for 12 more streaming services, so when it finally made it over to Netflix, I was able to watch it. But Yellow Jackets is a TV series that follows a bunch of high school girls and their soccer team that ends up crashing in the Canadian wilderness in 1996, and some of the girls survive the plane crash, and they are stranded in the woods for like days and months on end. You're watching them try to survive, but at the same time, you're getting time skips to some of the girls in present day as like 40-something-year-old women. So you're kind of filling in the gaps because you see which women are adults in the future, and then you see the teenagers that have been in the plane crash. And obviously there are a bunch of them that you don't see as adults. So you're trying to figure out who's not going to make it. What are all of these secrets that these girls are holding because they're so worried about certain secrets getting out. And you're like, well, what are these? And they hint in the very, very beginning of the show that some of the girls turn on each other and that cannibalism and stuff. So you're like, when is this going to happen? What's going to go down? And the whole time, the suspense is so heavy because you don't know what's gonna happen. It's not necessarily like super horror filled. I would say this is more of a thriller with elements of horror mixed into it. But if you want a good like suspense thriller mystery story, highly recommend this show. I gotta get to season 2 and figure out where I can watch it, and then I can do a follow-up of that season as well. But if you haven't seen season 1 of Yellow Jackets, definitely get on it. And then last up, I checked out a couple of horror games this month. Not much. Again, it was kind of a slow month. I was doing a lot of other games. I was playing a lot of GameCube games and doing throwback stuff this past month, so I didn't do as much horror. Plus, I kind of got heavily addicted to TCG Card Shop Simulator, if anyone's into that. But I digress. We did get some horror games finished, so I did get into this one that's called While We Wait Here. It's a small indie game about a diner that is located near a mountain range, and you as the owner, you take orders from the customers, cook the food, serve them, all of this stuff, your normal everyday life. However, while you're doing all of that, this impending catastrophe is coming and happening around you as you're seeing all of this, like, craziness unfold. And honestly, this game was a whirlwind, literally. It's only like, I don't know, 2 hours long. It didn't take me long. It does have some replayability because you make a lot of choices with certain characters in the game which will impact their fate at the end. So you can obviously go through this multiple times and kind of get different endings. I think there was like 7 or 8 endings, I think, something like that my chat was telling me. So it has more replayability. I thought it was cute for an indie game. It was a little wonked. It was a little weird. I feel it was like one of those like wonky indie games that's like good, but it's not like it looked like some masterpiece, you know? It wasn't no Silent Hill 2 from last month. But it was worth it. A community member had gifted it to me. So I was happy to find this game out when I had not previously heard about it before. And then lastly, I played this game called Sophie the Echoes. Now this game was very weird. I'll be brutally honest with Joel. I only played about a half hour of this game because it was so wonked. And not necessarily my type of game, but that doesn't mean it was a bad game. It was one of those more shooter type games, but the thing that drew me into it the most was I looked at the trailer, and the trailer has these beautiful cinematics. So if you want to go in for just the cutscenes, absolutely gorgeous cutscenes, but the game itself was interesting. Sophie the Echoes is driven by the theme of memory, love, and resilience. Unlike traditional games, the story progresses through Sophie's interactions with her environment and recollections of past events, which play a crucial role in solving puzzles and unlocking new paths. I personally am kind of stupid, and there was a lot of fighting in this, and I was doing it very poorly, so I kept getting stuck on a lot of spots because I would have to push past enemies to get to heal spots, and I wouldn't be able to push past them because I would be at like a one-hit death, and I wasn't playing it as stealthily as I could have. I think if I played in a different play style, I could have made this game much more enjoyable. So me, with my haphazard approach, did not help, but it was an interesting game, but ultimately a little bit of a letdown. But that is all of the online media that I consumed, and now for the physical media, I wasn't able to find literally any DVDs this past month. I don't know if like October just cleared it all out and everyone was hoarding the horror, but I didn't find any movies. I did find 2 books though. First up, we've got 3 Missing Days. This one is about a chilling murder, her son's arrest, and her stolen memories. Chief of Police Jane Hardy plunges into an investigation of a house fire that claimed the life of a local woman, as well as one of the firefighters. It's clear the woman was murdered, but why? Unraveling of Jane's personal life only makes the answers in the case more difficult to find. So this actually has 3 mini stories in it, and that's like the first one. So each one has its own little synopsis, and it looks like she has other books that do a similar breakdown. So I kind of like that it's the same character with multiple stories that character goes through. So this definitely seems like it could be very interesting, and I'm interested to dive in. And then I found another book, which is actually a prequel to, I guess, a more popular series, but I just found the prequel, which I was like, that's cool to start with, right? And it's called Escape from Asylum. I thought this cover just looked really creepy, which is initially what drew me to it. And this book, before Dan, Abby, and Jordan entered the asylum, when its evil warden was still crafting his plan, one teen learned that to save himself, he would have to escape. This haunting prequel to the Asylum series can stand on its own for new readers or provide missing puzzles for series fans. So I was trying to look to see if the person had donated the series, because a lot of times when I get them from Goodwill, people will donate like the whole series that they have at the same time, and then other times it's just singles. So because this is a prequel, if this is good, I can go venture and find the other. And honestly, dude, this book is in such good condition. I don't even know if this person read the book. I love the little accents on the pages. Like, quality, bro. Quality. So, excited to read this one as well. But that's all I got. I know it's a little bit of a shorter episode this month, a little bit less to cover, but I hope you still enjoyed it. Hopefully December we'll have a little bit more to get into. There's a couple of like Christmas horror movies and Christmas horror games that I want to delve into. So I'll see what I can find there. But as always, thank you so much for watching. If you did like this, give it a big thumbs up. It means so much to me. Thank you guys as always for supporting my channel, for supporting this series. If you want more horror content, let me know down below. I think I'm going to start doing some tier lists of a couple of different things with horror stuff. So I've got ideas coming. But Thank you guys as always for everything, and I will see you in the next video. So until then,